Okay, welcome back. Today, I wanted to go through a single market walkthrough on Trend Tracker. So, this is going to kind of combine all the functionality to look at a single market. Um, I think one of the interesting things right now, obviously, is with oil spiking back up, where is a good point to enter back in? Um, we've seen up days and down days jumping, 8% or so. And yeah, there would have been a good bottom to get in, but without much warning and still a lot of insecurity with that trade and where it's going to resolve. Is it time to get in yet or not? So, okay, we're on the live tracker, the homepage here. You'll notice my color scheme is different. You can change that around here. Um, I've just been enjoying this color setting, but you can change it in your account theme. Okay, so let's look at it. I'm going to sort by trend, see what the strongest trends are. Obviously, we're talking oil, CL, future symbol. It's down the list because it's been dealing with a lot of chop, right? So you see some of these. Heating oil tends to be a little bit more volatile, a little more perky. Natural gas really does its own thing. RBOB and Brent, a little bit stronger um, with the direction and the reversion. But oil is obviously the largest contract. There's always speculation, is it being suppressed? Is it this or that? It's also, by far the most liquid. It's still in an uptrend caution state. So you can see just by where energies are, overall it's in an uptrend, but the trend score is low, right? So it's you look at something probably 50, 60, 70 above is going to be pretty strong directional bias. Um, so even the surrounding contracts are pretty low in their trend direction. Even natural gas, yeah, it's a downtrend, but it's a low downtrend. It's very choppy, sideways, slow down. Um, we're gonna go back to oil. When you click on any of these tiles that belong to a single market, there's going to be three things that happen. So obviously the first one is telling you the trend state, uptrend caution, right? Self-explanatory. Uptrend caution means you might want to pump the brakes. You might think it's a more stable regime than this, but it's still in an uptrend in general. It's been that way for a long time with oil. When any of these tiles, you click on it, it's going to flip once to the trend score. You click on it again, it's going to give you a link to the market history. This is going to jump you right to the market history page. So it's going to take a second because it's got to load in all this historical data. Now, oil, there's something interesting about crude oil. Go back to all time. All right, and I'm going to clean up the consolidated view here just to look at like yearly bars essentially. But when you look at this, there's a pretty positive expectancy in downtrend and uptrend. That means oil tends to be a good market for longs and shorts, whereas something like S&P, when you look at it on the long term, most of the downtrends are in losing because yeah, there's market crashes and drawdowns in stocks and equities and things, but those typically revert up pretty hard as well, right? So oil is all over the place. You remember a specific period of time during COVID, we had negative oil, um, pure insanity, basically, right? You had negative oil. So obviously the expectancy there. So let's say you were in one contract, okay, right, that holding during that period, and then I think if you narrow it down even more, right, I don't know if it happened exactly. Yeah, so it happened in 2020, I suppose. Um, you're gonna have to span at least a year, but you can see that was a huge spike. Now we've been in a pretty choppy regime, right, for a bit with oil until this year when beginning of the year the news started up, right? So let's look at 2026. Okay. So you're obviously seeing very positive expectancy in the uptrend. It hasn't completed an uptrend caution state. It just flipped into uptrend from a downtrend, and it didn't. It hasn't closed out an uptrend caution state, so you're not going to see any information there. All right. If you go back a little farther, Obviously, you're going to get that. But you can look through it each state flip, right? Where was uptrend caution last? August of 2024. And then it was just kind of grinding down, grinding down, grinding down. And then finally you got the big flip, right? So that's that. The big flip is when the money started pouring into the uptrend state. So we're going to go back to the view here. Okay. So obviously a pretty lucrative contract. Now, what does it mean to be an uptrend caution? Well, we've seen this decline get hit pretty hard. It shot up quick. It was a violent move to the upside. It was a violent move to the downside. So we are seeing the potential that it's going to close out of the uptrend caution state and jump back up to the uptrend. So if you're waiting that out, you're avoiding all that sideways chop, all the news headlines, and having to stare at charts every day, right? And that's the key of this whole site. Why do you want to look at a bunch of headlines? Like, are you going to absorb every single piece of news? Is your like chat GPT model going to absorb every piece of news and come up with the correct information? No. It's about long-term trend and conviction and strength of those trends, right? If it's a strong and long trend, be in it. If it's choppy, don't be in it. Wait it out. Wait until there's an opportunity for a setup. You don't need constant action. So if you want to avoid staring at charts all day, scrolling news headlines, and just know once the next, obscene expectancy going to show up, well, it's going to be when it's in an uptrend. That's clearly outpacing a lot of the other things, right? So if we look, let's just go back to a standard 3-year view, right? Uptrend caution has typically been choppy. Uptrend or downtrend caution in the last 3 years have been good places to be. So when you're in those states, that's where you had the high expectancy for a good return. Okay. What else should I go over here? I've gone over a bit of this functionality, but you have an expectancy formula. If you're familiar with Kelly criterion, just a lot of the there's a lot of systematic trading that's based on you shouldn't take a trade if there's a negative expectancy, right? So you're looking for trend regimes, trend states that are in a positive expectancy, and obviously that's going to change with your look back period. But if you're looking at a standard 3-year look back, if you're looking at a 1-year look back, if you're looking just the last 6 months with the insane move, if you're looking back all time, uptrend is a good place to be, right? And if you're looking back in the shorter term, counting the big COVID negative oil thing, downtrend caution was a great place to be, right? It's not to say that other markets can't be, but if you're setting yourself up for disappointment, then trade and chop, I guess. But if you want to give yourself the best possibility for an edge, look at positive expectancy. So expectancy can be toggled. You can also see, okay, what if I had a full futures contract or I had micro futures, and how many? What does that expectancy translate to in terms of returns per regime flip? So as soon as uptrend caution state closes out and moves to any of the other states, that's where you're seeing these expected results. So it's never going to show you the open trade because it's an unknown, right? Now, hedge reduce, okay? So hedge reduce would say if you are in a caution state, would you reduce the number of contracts? If you had 6 contracts, would you reduce half of those? Would you reduce 3/4? Would you take all of them off the table and only trade in the uptrend and pure downtrend states? So that's what this information is asking you here. And then the bias is if you only want to trade on the long side and you want to skip anything that's in a downtrend or downtrend caution, any downtrend regime. Or same thing, oil, there has been merit at certain times to be in the short business on oil. Obviously, you can see when the profitability was the negative oil thing, and that was when it was in a pure downtrend. But the other thing is to think about with this was catching these things really before the meat of the move happened, right? And then telling you it's over without having to stare at headlines all day, right? It's just basically the speed of the move is slowing down, right? It's getting stale. So it's just a lot of information you can glean here. If you export, it's going to give you baseline stuff. It's going to go to all time. It's not going to do these hedge reducer bias filters. It's going to give you everything. You can filter it yourself in Excel. So, as always, that's a great place to be. Um, let's jump back to the live tracker real quick. Okay. So again, we were talking about energy. Um, let's say we wanted to start a watch list. Okay. Uh, these plus signs next to the tiles, that will give you access to a watch list. Okay. So the watch lists are on your alerts page. You can have up to 3. You can see that crude oil is already on my all. It's not on my other 2. If I wanted to add it to this screener, I can do that. Set it, add it to it. So if I go to the alerts page, okay, there's crude oil, right? No recent changes. But if that does flip from uptrend caution to uptrend, you'll see a red badge here. I can clear it, uncheck it, or redo the alerts. They're going to default here how long the alerts are going to stay persistent. Do you only want alerts that triggered within the last 7 days? Do you want to look farther back, 30 days, manual? It's up to you, right? And then obviously when you're navigating the page, those alerts will show up here as well. Okay. Weekly update. Again, we've gone over this before. I'm not going to go over it again. There is a new feature upgrade, which is this single stock futures, so stock symbols. Those are going to show up on their own view to keep it a little cleaner. So markets, including stock markets, including stock sectors, will be over here, but individual stocks are now over here. But if we're on our alerts, we have this market here. We can click summarize, and it will bring us to any trend changes. Now, obviously, oil has not changed trend state, so it's just going to say no trend changes. But it's a quick way to clean up your view and go through things. So that's a nice walkthrough of one market and what the functionality is. I'm going to save doing a multi-market or a entire category analysis for another video. I wanted to keep this short and sweet.